Hello, welcome everybody. We were just sort of waiting for people to come online and hopefully everybody's sorted out. So I just want to welcome you to the fifth and final series of the Gippsland Smart Future series. I'm Jo Rule, from a Sustainability Project Officer with Wellington Shire Council. I'd just like to start off by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we meet. I'm actually currently sitting in Sale, so in my case it's the Gunai Kurnai, and we pay our respects to our elders past, present and emerging. Today's webinar showcases three somewhat very different approaches to renewable energy across sporting facilities. And it's somewhat been inspired through a partnership the Council has with the Sport Environment Alliance, which is a membership non-profit that seeks to create sustainable environment in which sport can flourish into the future. And they have a great motto: it's no planet, no play. It really resonates quite closely with myself as both a sustainability professional and a keen tennis player. Before we begin, I'll just do a bit of housekeeping. We have 10-minute presentations from our three presenters, followed by 5 minutes for questions. If you have a question, you can use the Q&A chat function at the bottom of your screen. And if you experience any technical issues, we have some tech officers in the background that are happy to help if you go through the chat function. We'll also be recording this presentation and questions so that they can be uploaded onto the web page. So if you miss those, you can jump on that at a later date. So enough of me. I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Larry Sengzok. He's responsible for overseeing the entire asset and presentation division at Latrobe City Council, and is here today to talk about their flagship $57 million Gippsland Regional Aquatic Centre, which will be Victoria's first public aquatic facility to embrace geothermal heating. Welcome, Larry.
Thanks, Jo. I hope that everybody can hear me, and I hope that my screen is working now. So with technical capabilities that I don't have, I'm responsible for in Latrobe City for a number of projects, but the big jewel in the crown is the Gippsland Regional Aquatic Centre. We are due to finish construction on the facility in November, the end of November this year. And one of the key pieces that we've got with the GRAC, as we call it, is the geothermal heating system, which we've been able to put together, which we believe is going to save us a heck of a lot of money. And I just wanted to take you through that today to show you the process and what we are actually going through. As long as I can get now I can. Just a quick background on the facility. It's a $57 million outlay, $57 million facility with an indoor 50-metre pool, learn to swim pool, a warm water pool, and the normal sort of wellness centre, gym upstairs. And what we have been able to do is actually put an outdoor pool in here as well. And all of this is as a benefit of having the geothermal as part of the program. So the upstairs is, we've got water slides as well, and then upstairs we've got a full gym with program rooms as well. So it's a huge piece of infrastructure for Latrobe City. And again, as I say, I'll take you through the geothermal, but it's going to allow us to make it far more economical to operate as we go forward. Just some artist impressions. So that's the slide looking at the from the corner, looking back over the outdoor 25-metre pool and the facilities inside. This is essentially where we're at with our construction right now. From an aerial point of view, the 50-metre pool is the big hall that you see up in the top right-hand corner. So geothermal, obviously with these sorts of facilities, indoor aquatic facilities, there's a huge demand for energy and heating. Typically we use gas boilers, and to be honest, we have got gas boilers as backup in this facility, but we've gone down the path of geothermal. as a highly efficient energy source and heating source, as well as it being sustainable. We're lucky here in Latrobe City in the respect of there's been a lot of exploration over the years in terms of the coal and the coal mining, and so there's a real strong knowledge in terms of the aquifer and the heated water that's existing underneath where we are today. And actually, the coal is a bonus in terms of keeping the water hot. It's like a blanket. So the water that we're going to be using for the geothermal is exceptionally hot. We did a whole lot of business modelling on this from the start, and we believe that the geothermal is going to save us in the vicinity of $400,000 or $500,000 a year, just in heating costs. So in operational costs, it certainly reduces all of that. We've still got electrical costs and power costs, but we're looking at how we reduce that as well with solar power potential there. As you can see from the screen, it's going to save us about 700 tonnes of carbon emissions per year. So what we are doing, and this is the interesting part, there's two bores. There's basically the taking the water out. We're not actually using the water. What we are doing is taking the heat off the water and then pushing the water back into the aquifer. They have to have about a separation of some 500 meters. So the bore that comes up, the production bore, if the water comes up at about 63 degrees, we run it through a heat exchanger, which then heats all of the pools, all of the air, everything in the center. And then 500 meters away, we push it back down into the aquifer. So that there is just a quick diagram of what it looks like. So you can see the sand layer, the aquifer, underneath the gravel and the cold layers. It's about 620 meters down is where we need to go to get to the aquifer. This one here is just a diagram of the aquifer and how it works. So where we are is reasonably shallow. So we're able to access the water, and again, we're not actually using the water. We don't see the water. In fact, it comes up through a pipe. We take the heat off it and we push it back down again. So there's no actual usage of the water, and no contamination as such of the water. This is again just a diagrammatic of the site. That's the old 50-meter outdoor pool that we're now building over the top of that. So we've taken that out and building it. You see there's a production bore that's right next to our site. That's where we bring the water up into the main system of the plant room of the new aquatic centre, and then back up to the left. You see the injection bore further up about 500 meters. So we have to then bore or run a pipe back up through K Street, in the centre of K Street, back up and then push it back down into the aquifer. The reason for it being separated is so that we don't push cool water back into the hot water of the aquifer and start to contaminate it from a heat perspective across. So by having it 500 meters apart, that allows us to not have that issue. These are just some of the diagrams in terms of the photos taken from the drill rig and some of the stainless steel casings that are used or have been used over the process. So we've now done both bores, and we're in the process of connecting the two with the pipes. These are the bore screens. So as you see, it's a gravel and sand layer. So the water's not just a pond down there. So we need to draw the water in through these filters, and then bring it up and then push it back down. But as I say, it comes up at 63 degrees, which is extremely warm. There are a number of pools that are doing this over in WA, and they run on about 45 degrees, the water coming up. So with ours at between 63 and 68 degrees, we've got a hell of a resource that we can tap into here in Gippsland. Again, just when we first started to bring the water up and the steam that comes off it, just to show you that it's a incredibly strong source of energy for what we need with our aquatic centre. This is just, again, just some photos to show you the boring that goes up. It's a special pipe, the polymer pipe that's that has to be able to withstand the heat and insulate the water as it goes back up. So this is going back up K Street, where it will go back into the aquifer further along. It's just a quick summary of what we are doing, but we're currently completing the bore head. We're going through all the regulatory approvals. As we say, we're not actually using the water. We're not taking any water out of the system. We're actually just using the heat off the water and taking it back down. So we've had to go through a whole lot of regulatory approvals, but that's all in play as we speak. The whole thing will be commissioned at the end of this year with GRAC, Gippsland Regional Aquatic Centre, opening in early 2021. Once we get everything in place. This is a bit of a trial in terms of what other uses that we could have with the geothermal here in Gippsland. There's been a lot of work over the years, but there's still certainly more happening in terms of the agriculture, aquaculture, industrial uses, and then tourism as well, setting up hot water, warm water pools and other things where this resource can be used as a sustainable resource that and as I said from the start, this is a massive facility, $57 million with a 50-metre pool, a 25-metre pool, warm water pool, play spaces, learn to swim, all being heated by this geothermal. And our estimates at this point in time is it's going to save us anywhere between $400,000 and $500,000 a year in running costs, which makes a facility like this far more viable, particularly in the regional centres. So that's the extent of what I wanted to show today. But you know, we're all very excited about certainly about what this opportunity has to offer.
Thanks, Larry. Look, there's a couple of questions there, and if anyone has any questions, please enter them in at the Q&A. Just in terms of, do you know how far this technology would extend across Gippsland?
Well, the aquifer goes a long way. It goes all the way through Bairnsdale, so it's there's a range of other investigations going on, but it's a massive aquifer, and it's as I say, it's a great resource, and we're at the cutting edge of it in terms of it being used for this aquatic centre. But there are going to be all sorts of opportunities going forward.
We do have another question. Is the water in the aquifer stationary, or does it flow slowly in a stable direction? Just wondering, if the water is stationary, then it might slowly cool down as heat is extracted, or is heat replacement fast enough for this to be a non-issue? Yeah,
and that's one of the main reasons for having the 500-metre separation. It does move, and the plume does expand, but the movement of the water then allows it to be reheated and not to, as I say, not contaminate it as such, or the plume from a heating point of view. It reduces that issue. So there's a lot of experts who've been working on this and designing this, and as I say, it's done widely in New Zealand, but certainly in WA as well. They do it, but theirs is a lot further down, a lot deeper, and the water's nowhere near as hot as what ours is.
We have another question. Just in terms of the ability of combining the system to other venues close by. So could it be attached to the library and the entertainment centre, or is it purely a system designed just for the pool capacity?
No, that's one of the beauties of this. We actually do have the ability to run spur lines off the main line to other facilities. It's just the cost of getting the pipes over there. The pipes are specialist pipes and quite expensive, but we're building a new a creative precinct performing arts centre, and that's one of the options that we've got there to heat that as well. It doesn't have anywhere near the same demand as an aquatic centre for heating, because it's not a 24-hour-a-day activation centre. But yeah, certainly there's opportunities to do that. Heat buildings across the CBD, because this aquatic centre is right on the edge of the CBD as well.
And just another one, and I might interpret this question. Can other opportunities be developed in the Latrobe City Council? And I'm wondering whether that refers directly to geothermal or additional renewable opportunities for Latrobe.
Well, yeah, it's part of our whole renewable strategy. But in terms of other uses for the geothermal, certainly from a tourism point of view, if we went down the path of, you know, the aquatic centre is going to be for that now, because of what it can handle. We'll have the largest warm water pool, so used for rehabilitation, exercise, and programming in the whole region. So again, our hospital's got one small one, but this is going to add to that capacity in our region. So that's a great attractor. But then there's also other opportunities, and as we said, in agriculture, industrial, all sorts of things that this geothermal will be potentially used for.
Yeah, look, I think it's a really exciting project. We might leave the questions there for the moment, but if anyone wants to add a question, we're happy to address that later. We can send that on to Larry and he can get back to us later on and put that up on the website. So thank you, Larry. And I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who is John Harris. John is a member of the Yanaran District Community Association, the Lions Club, and the Latrobe City Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committee. And he will be representing on the Yanar Recreation Reserve's new solar pathway lighting project. So welcome, John.
Thanks, Joe. And thank you to everybody. I'll just go to some PowerPoints. Get that up. Okay. Hi, I'm John Harris. As Joe said, I'm a member and I'm currently treasurer of the Yanaran Districts Community Association, or YDCA for short. Although this presentation is about a project of the association to install solar lighting along the 1 kilometre pathway from the Yanar Town Centre to the community's recreation reserve, the unofficial title of the presentation is Community Projects 101, Never Hold Your Breath, but Never Give Up. The Yanar Recreation Reserve was relocated in the 1950s from the centre of the town to its current site, a kilometre away, and it has now become the home of over 20 sporting teams, including many junior teams in football, netball, cricket, tennis and judo. It also provides excellent facilities for functions ranging from a community meeting to a major music festival. It took until the early 1990s for the Recreation Reserves Committee of Management to persuade the Moai Council to alongside the 80 to 100 kilometre per hour unlit road to save spectators and players from having to walk in the traffic. From that time on, the community ranked lighting the pathway as its prime priority in every survey that's been done of community projects and priorities. Without lighting, parents of junior team members needed to drive children to and from training at the reserve to ensure their safety, meaning, unfortunately, many kids missed out on being able to participate. In 2008, the Yanaran District Community Association formalised a list of community projects that we would work actively to achieve. The Pathway Lighting Project was, of course, priority number one. Exploration of costs showed that lighting with reticulated power would require one-off funding of $160,000, while solar lighting could be progressively installed for $9,000 per light, which seemed to us more achievable. Other advantages, such as the ability for school students to investigate real-world solar energy by collecting data on the energy input and output of the panels and the luminaires, made solar lighting the association's choice. Other factors, of course, have since reinforced that choice. Over the next 10 years, YDCA progressively explored a series of grant programs offered by state and federal governments. These included, in 2009, a program called Inspiring Environmental Solutions Grants from the Victorian EPA. Our inspiring expression of interest was unfortunately rejected. In 2010, Climate Communities from the Victorian Government came on board. A full application was developed and refined with support and input from the Department of Sustainability and support from Latrobe City Council. But a state election occurred just at that time, led to a change of government and the demise of that grants program. In 2012, the federal government's Community Energy Efficiency Program appeared. YDCA's required contribution would have been 1/3 of any grant amount, and that was beyond us. In 2013, the Putting Locals First program from the Victorian Government. Required contribution was again 1/3, and there was doubt regarding the public lighting for grants, given that it was normally a responsibility of other departments. Also in 2013, the Public Safety Infrastructure Fund from the Victorian Government. And the Latrobe City Council submitted an application which included the Yanar pathway lighting, but previous recorded crimes were required for successful grants. In 2016 came the federal Safer Streets program, but again, previous crime on the pathway was required. Obviously, Yanar was just too safe. And then in November 2016 came the Latrobe Valley Authority's Community Facility Fund from the Victorian Government. YDCA's expression of interest was submitted in January 2017 and was approved by the LVA for a full application in February 2017. In March 2017, armed with our successful expression of interest and Council's previous support for the project, YDCA met with Latrobe City Council staff to arrange supporting documentation. However, recently appointed staff were initially not familiar with nor highly supportive of solar lighting, and this would have been the first solar public lighting to be installed in Latrobe City. Discussions stretched over several months, gradually moving forward. By October 2017, 5 solar lighting suppliers, all interstate, were nominated by council staff for YDCA to seek quotes. However, 2 of those went out of business, and the interstate location of the others created major delivery and installation cost issues. So by March 2018, 6 itemised quotes, 3 interstate plus 3 Victorian, were documented for further discussion with Latrobe City. Also in March 2018, we were contacted by Chris Barfoot of the Latrobe Valley Community Power Hub. Chris brought a wealth of information and contacts, plus examples of solar lighting projects undertaken by other Gippsland councils. These were very valuable in the ongoing discussions with Latrobe City staff. The upshot was that at its meeting of the 3rd of September 2018, Latrobe City Council gave its unanimous approval for a full application to the LVA, with council as the primary applicant and YDCA as its partner. The application was submitted within a fortnight and was approved in March 2019 for an LVA grant of $120,000, with La Trobe City and YDCA each contributing $20,000. Tendering and selection of the contractor took the remainder of 2019, and on February 25, 2020, the 24 solar lights were installed along the pathway and they were alight that night. This was 10 years, 5 months and 2 days from the date of YDCA's first expression of interest submission in 2009. YDCA is particularly grateful to the La Trobe City Council and to the La Trobe Valley Community Power Hub for their support and assistance. We also thank our own community members and Yanaran District organisations which have stayed with us throughout the journey. I think you can see why the Community Association's motto for any major worthwhile community development project has become never hold your breath, but never give up. I think Joe might have some video of the pathway. Thanks.
The Yanar Solar Path is a fantastic project. La Trobe City Council is extremely grateful to all of the community members who worked so tirelessly to get this to happen.
Thank you, John. Great presentation. Just wanted to, I guess, ask a question. I believe that one of the local schools was interested in perhaps working with you and securing some of that solar data and using that in their educational program. Is that the case? And could you discuss that a little bit more, if so?
Yes, Joe. This goes back to the original examination of solar lighting at the time. And the way in which it was set up. The original contractor we talked with had a system whereby the actual solar, the poles on which the solar lighting was mounted had access for data logging instruments, so that the technicians could actually monitor how well the batteries were storing the energy. We talked with them and got an arrangement whereby they would release their software to us, and our local primary school was interested in the possibility of students actually being able, under supervision obviously, to take measurements, work through then the process so we could demonstrate just how effective the use of solar energy could be.
Yeah, that's a great way of expanding that program and building that education component into it. I just probably more of a comment, just in regards to your stamina. I guess it's all about lining your ducks up and being in there for the long haul. Is that, and being in the right place at the right time? Is that how you sort of see this sort of program?
Look, it is, Joe. We find that community associations tend to suffer from fatigue in many cases because they expect a project, even a major project, can be done within a year. And then they find out that things drag on, they take a lot longer than they realise, and in some cases they give up. We've learned, and we are continuing to demonstrate that that you have to be in it for the long haul. You've got to be prepared if you miss out on the first grant or the first 5 or 6 to keep looking and keep trying for the next one, because you can succeed in the end, and lots of other community associations have proven this as well.
Yeah, yeah. We have a question from Dan. Are there any ongoing costs associated with the solar lights?
Dan, there will be some costs. The panels do tend to build up dust over a period of time, and that's not always removed simply by rain. So it's possible that every few years it will be necessary to send in a cherry picker and clean the panels. We're not sure yet what the battery lifetime is. It's certainly much better than it was initially. And so that may be a long-term maintenance issue as well. The indications are nowadays that that the lifetime is such that they are a very satisfactory approach to this type of lighting.
No worries. I might get to you, John, to just stick around, and there might be some more questions at the end. So now, I'd like to introduce our final presenter, Sale Tennis Club President, member of Tennis Victoria Country Advisory Group, and Treasurer of the Rural Financial Counselling Service in Victoria, Mr. Robin Lowe. And Robin will be talking about the new solar PV and battery installation at the Sale Tennis Club. Welcome, Robin, and I'll just share my screen so that your presentation can start.
Thank you, Jo. Yes, we share the thoughts of persistence. That's a terrific job to persist for that long. So well done on that last project. At the Sale Tennis Club, we've sought to actively reduce our environmental footprint over the last 15 years, and this has mirrored the growing expectation of our community and our members. In that time, we've worked with Gippsland Water to install recycled water, which comes from Lake Guthridge, saving many megalitres of potable water yearly and reducing our water consumption costs. We've installed a comprehensive recycling program. So we now recycle all glass, aluminium, paper and cardboard from our site that was previously sent to landfill, saving up to 150 square metres annually of recyclable materials. And in 2012, we installed a 5 kilowatt solar power system. That time, the feed-in rate was comfortably higher than the peak rate, and our savings were quite significant. However, with changes in the marketplace and government policy, this rate had dropped to as low as 7 cents per kilowatt hour, while our peak rate electricity costs were around 45 cents per kilowatt hour. As a result, our savings dwindled dramatically, and we're spending up to $8,000 a year on electricity. We plan to install a solar system with battery storage so that we can take advantage of capturing energy during the day and then use it to power our lights at night. The solar system would fit comfortably on our roof, and we had space for the battery storage. Battery storage was essential for us to achieve our savings goals, as the vast majority of our electricity is used between the hours of 7 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. when the solar system is not operational. Therefore, we're not using electricity that we created during the day. This all went back into the grid at a very low rate, and then we paid full peak rate for the electricity we needed to run our night penance, social tennis, junior programs and coaching. Therefore, we identified that having an effective solar power system with battery storage was one of the major priorities for our future development. Our further investment would help with the long-term viability and success of our club. We'll jump ahead, because what we're seeing is what was actually installed. And for the technically minded, we had 52 315 watt solar panels, 3 5 kilowatt HD wave inverters, 54 P300 optimizers, and please don't ask me what they are because I don't know, and 3 LG Chem batteries with 9.8 kilowatt usable storage each. As an added bonus, we're able to retain our existing 5 kilowatt system in its existing location, and it still produces electricity for our own use or for sending back into the grid daily. Funding our ambitions. As John is very much experienced as well, funding your ambitions is a difficult exercise. The first steps for us was to identify the technical viability and the potential cost of the project. This involved consultation with Wellington Shire as owner of the site, liaison with AusNet Services to ensure that they would permit a solar system this size in this location, determining if the proposed system would fit within our existing and proposed clubhouse layout, identifying suitable local suppliers and installers, and obtaining detailed fixed quotations. The single greatest limitation on almost all community-based clubs is funding. For our project to come to reality, we needed to understand what funding sources were available. We needed to consider state, federal and local government grant options, non-government funders such as Foundation for Rural and Regional Renewal, Australian Sports Foundation and local funders. After reviewing all of the available sources, the best possible fit was the then recently formed La Trobe Authority, established by the Victorian Government to reduce the impact on regional economies on the closure of the Hazelwood Power Station. As a funding source, La Trobe Authority were a very logical fit. We were looking to be more energy efficient and they were looking to create employment and job opportunities. The fact that we intended to export power to the grid was one of our outcomes made the potential fit even more appealing. We're able to engage the La Trobe Authority directly with our project with the assistance of Wellington Shire Council, who provided support and resources. The pre-work on the technical viability and costs was a major advantage as we were able to explain exact project details, exact costs and expected outcomes. We were project ready, not just pie in the sky. The two significant obstacles we encountered were, we needed to demonstrate that there was an adequate return on the community funds to meet the La Trobe Authority investment benchmarks, along with other assessment criteria, and the club needed to find 25% of the net project cost, or nearly $15,000. With the first of these obstacles, we were able to demonstrate potential savings of in excess of $6,000 per year for the club, meeting the minimum objective of a 10% community return on the invested funds. The $15,000 contribution we were able to draw from our sinking fund. Our club puts $1,000 per month into a future fund to allow for future capital works, upgrades and major replacements. This gives us the ability to successfully undertake major projects such as this without needing to borrow or to otherwise unduly disturb our day-to-day cash flow. The final costings was that the full system cost $67,000 and the funding breakdown was La Trobe Authority $41,000. The sale of our small scale technology certificates was worth $8,000. We had a supplier rebate that we negotiated with supplier of $3,000 and the club put in the remaining $15,000. The screen that we see is our system that we installed has a live monitoring system that allows us to continuously review power production, battery levels, internal consumption and electricity exported to the grid. To date, we've produced nearly 15 megawatt hours of electricity, which at our peak price of 46 cents per kilowatt hour represents a saving of nearly $7,000 over the 12 months that it's been installed. Using that system, I can actually monitor that from my mobile phone, and I can tell you that our battery at this stage is 78% charged after running overnight to run our security. So we're able to see that. Joe, if we can just run to the next slide, and we'll just start to run through. This is the type of information that we then are able to see on our system, and we can check its health daily if we choose to. So. And we're able to see our electricity usage, our internal consumption, and our solar production as we go. So the particular graph that we've got there is the overnight discharge to near full charge during the day. On the next one, we see a high usage day. That's a day when we had night pennant and the batteries were discharged fully. So we've used our batteries completely before we then needed to pull electricity from the grid to finalise our play. And on the next one is a day where we've actually used almost nothing from the grid at all for the whole of the day. So we've only drawn from the grid very, very minor components during the course of a day. So we've been quite independent from the grid on a day like that. So as we came into late autumn, the club was actually sitting on a credit on its electricity account. So we haven't had a power bill for all of summer, and we've got a small credit as we go towards winter. So the project has already been a success, and our savings have already hit or exceeded the benchmark that was set at the time that we were looking to make the investment. So the project from our point of view has been highly successful. The club has achieved the savings that it was looking for. It's achieved significant environmental savings in terms of both electricity and then greenhouse gases, and we still remain overtly ambitious. So we're hoping to install LED lighting on all of our courts, and that's coming up. So that will replace our old metal halide lights, which are quite inefficient. We also would like to install full LED security lights to reduce our overnight consumption, allow more production to be exported. And we're hoping to do upgrades in the older areas of our clubhouse to replace conventional lightings with energy efficient LED lighting. So we would therefore hope to be a model hub of electricity efficiency as a club going forward. So that's it for me, Joe. Are there any questions coming up as part of the process?
Oh, sorry, Robin, I was a bit slow getting back on there. Look, I actually had a question. I was just wondering what the level of engagement or interest in the club's progression on sustainability has been like within your membership base. Is it something that has actually driven these changes, or is that mostly from you, or?
It's actually a combination. Our committee is very responsive to this, and I think that they've picked up on the members reflecting, I suppose, the community expectations around these things. So, and then from there, that drives through our committee to ensure that we do pick up on all of the things that are available in this space. So, so we are very conscious of our footprint. We're conscious of the privilege of the location that we have, and our members do remain very, very interested in that. So it is something that we produce into our newsletters, and people are able to see and comment on.
Fantastic. We have a question from Peter. Your presentation mentioned 2 different battery types. Which one was actually installed?
So we actually installed LG Chem batteries. So they're more suitable to the purpose. The alternative batteries are Tesla batteries, but these ones are actually more suitable to the purpose. So these are an LG battery, which it's similar, but the technical people tell me that they're actually more suitable for the job that we've got them doing.
Just another question. Without the LVA grant, would it still have been a financial cost benefit if you had got a loan for that component? And would the club go down that path of looking at loan options?
Potentially we would, yes. If you work backwards on the numbers and on our net cost, it's certainly justifiable. Now that we actually know what our cost savings are and they're real as opposed to theoretical, the cost savings would have in fact allowed us to take out a loan and repay that over a 5 to 6 year period, depending upon the interest rate. So it is something that would have been viable had we not been able to obtain funding.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think, I might just bring everybody back if all the presenters want to come back online. All right, and we've got Larry and just waiting for John. I think we've got a question to Larry from William. I think that I'm directing it in the to the right person. What kind of injection value do you install? I think I'm directing that to the right person.
I saw that question in the box, and I was just looking at it, thinking I'm not too sure what is meant by that. To be honest, sorry.
That's all right. Okay, William might want to.
Yeah, if you want to give me a bit more detail, I'm happy to.
A little bit more on that one. And there was a question there in regards to long-term. What's your lifetime of the geothermal project and maintenance? Cost of construction, installation, payback periods, and savings over the lifetime of the system.
Yep.
Which I think you talked about a little bit.
Yeah, I don't have the exact figures, and it is still flexible in terms of, because it's part of what the geothermal allowed us to do was actually to add more to the project. So if the outdoor pool wasn't something that we did, so we actually have been able to secure more funding to be able to deliver those with the payback period. So look, the payback for with the geothermal itself, we've used the very best equipment that we can get to make sure, because the pump is some 600 meters down the well, so you don't want to be replacing those very often. So we've made sure we've used the best equipment possible, and the best pipes and the best heat exchangers and filtration systems. So we're expecting about a 30-year lifespan at least from these facilities. But again, we're at the forefront. So that's our estimates and our calculations. In terms of payback, it's basically, when we first did this, it was about a 5 or 6 year payback. So it's incredibly strong in the savings. And the other factor in that is the rising gas prices. So we no longer are subject to that. So we've now got our own energy source, sustainable energy source that we're not subject to price rises. So that's, as gas goes up, the payback period obviously gets better. So
Right. Yeah. I've got one for you, Robin. Could you advise the requirements the club had to meet to receive the LVA grant?
Certainly. So I suppose the initial condition was that we had to be in one of the 3 shires that the LVA covered at the time, being Baw Baw, Latrobe and Wellington. We had to demonstrate the return to community in terms of minimum investment return. So what were our savings going to be as part of that process? And we had to demonstrate the degree of community use of our facility. In other words, that we were embedded in the community and providing a broad support and access to the whole of the community, not just an individual member club, if that makes any sense. So the facility was being used by the whole of the community.
Yeah.
With the broad outlines in terms of the things that we needed to cover off on.
And there's just a question about, I guess, whether the Sale Tennis Club is leased from local government. Did you want to go into just how that arrangement works?
Certainly it is, yes. So we have an ongoing lease arrangement. So Wellington Shire are our landlord, and we run in 9-year leases, which is the maximum apparently that local government can give. So we hope that that'll be renewed every 9th year.
It looks like we've got another question here, and it's maybe interpreting William's previous question. what volume of hot water flows through the system per hour, or is it heat automatically heat demand controlled? That's for you, Larry.
Yep. There's a bit of both in all of that. I got to admit, I'm the project director on this one, so I don't have all the absolute detail and nitty gritty. Luke McGrath, who's our project manager, he's got all those numbers, but I think it's 30 litres per second is what we've got the capacity to bring the water up in terms of volume, which is fantastic as well, very strong. And I think the pump brings it up at the speed and the need on a needs basis.
Yep. And another one for Robin, I believe, from Dan. Have you installed the lithium-ion batteries? Is that what you...
Actually, they're LG Chem batteries, so they are a variant of that, but they're not strictly, and again, I'm not highly technical, but they're actually a chem battery, not a lithium ion, which is a variation of the same theme, but apparently can withstand full charge recharge better as part of that process, according to the technical people.
All right. Look, I think if you just want to go, I probably will finish up by asking you all just a little bit about what's the main lesson you've learnt going through this process in terms of going down that renewable energy path. Start with you, Robin.
I think our part of the process is trying to work out exactly what it is that you want. And then being ready when the opportunities come. So in our case, we did all of the technical things, all of the making sure that we actually had a project, we knew exactly what it was going to cost, and then that allowed us to identify the funding opportunity when it happened. But we really needed to be ready for that as part of the whole process. So really do all of your technical work, make sure you've got all the costings, that sort of stuff. So when something then actually does appear on the funding horizon, you're in an ability to take advantage of that.
And Larry?
Look, I'd absolutely endorse those points from Robin as well, making sure you're ready for when the opportunities do come along, and that's where we've been lucky here at Latrobe City. Our funding is through the state government for these facilities, with funding from our own council as well for the extra piece, but certainly through the LVA, we need to acknowledge that, and it's been fantastic. But yeah, ours is all about the ability for these large facilities. Everyone wants all the bells and whistles, and what you need to do is try to make them sustainable. And the geothermal has given us that opportunity, and we're also looking at the PVs that have got the solar power on the roof, so that then we've got electricity needs. So if we can take that away as well, then the whole facility becomes far more viable to run and to provide to the community.
And over to you, John.
Yes, I'd also obviously endorse Robin's comments. Ours was interesting in the sense that solar lighting changed an enormous amount over the 10 years. We saw a number of companies come and go, even in the time between when we discovered they existed and the time we chased them for a quote. In some cases, they'd gone. And of course, the costs changed and the technology was changing at the same time. So, yes, you need to be a bit nimble while you're not holding your breath.
Look, I want to thank you all for presenting in today's webinar, and I might get you to each shut down as we just roll up. I just wanted to recap that the whole Gippsland Smart Future Series webinar has been a great opportunity for Gippsland-based projects to get some airtime and to promote some really great renewable energy outcomes for our region. And thank you for your interest and participation. Just like to also thank our partners, the Latrobe Valley Authority, Gippsland Climate Change Network, GippSport, Latrobe City Council, Community Power Hub at Latrobe Valley, Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning, Gippsland Smart Specialisation and the Sport Environment Alliance. And just before I wind up the series, just like to mention that our Playing the Game forum and dinner and the Renewable Energy Marketplace and Home Energy Solutions workshop will be held in person once the COVID-19 restrictions has eased. And the details of those events will be posted when confirmed. And we'd love to see you there.